All right, it's always a blessing, it's a pleasure to have moments to reflect on a year. We are just at the tipping end of 2025 into 2026, and we thought maybe we can have some conversation to reflect and talk about how the year has gone. It's just amazing what time can do and do. It just seems like it was just like a few months or a few weeks when we were welcoming 2025 January, but now here we are in 2025, and we just have two days to go into 2026. The question is, what have you done in 2026? What are you going to do in 2026? And what have you done in 2025? Now, I have two brilliant gentlemen who are going to help to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of 2025. It's always good to reflect where we are coming from so that we can make all the necessary plans available so that as we march into the next year, then we have some lessons, we have a checklist. Most people make New Year's resolutions and others don't. So most people say, oh, I want to lose weight, I want to make more money. But you find that by the second, third week, people have gone back to their normal way of doing things. But now I have Mr. Let me introduce my guest here. These are people that you have seen uh, feature on this program time and time and again. We have Mr. Aaron Ngambi and Mr. Jimmy Katuta. Let's start with Mr. Ngambi. Mr. Ngambi, how are you doing today?
Um, Thank you very much for having me. I'm doing very well. Compliments of the season to you, Brother Noah and Uncle Jimmy. It's exciting that we're about to end 2025 and go into 2026. And so we're looking forward to our reflections this year and also maybe make some projections and hope to make changes for 2026.
Good, good. Mr. Katuta, greetings and welcome.
Greetings to you, gentlemen, and thank you. It's nice to be here. It's always nice to see Aaron. Aaron is somebody that I always learn from. I get a lot of suggestions, a lot of ideas, a lot of just how to navigate. You know, some of us are on the sunset. We're going down the hill, and to see you guys, Brother Noah, my nephew Aaron. It's such an opportunity, and I'm glad that we are having this time here to reflect on 2025, some of the things that we did that we wished we hadn't, and some of the things we didn't do that we wished we did. So, looking forward to this conversation, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. As you have seen, ladies and gentlemen, we are reflecting on 2025, and most people in Zambia can reflect on, I think, the just passed bill. I think it's very much in people's mind, the Bill 7, and adjustments or amendments to the Constitution. There is a 2026 general election coming up in Zambia, and the body of the former president has not yet been buried. And there are political parties in Zambia. The PF is sort of being split up, and most people are saying the party is no longer in existence. They have got these other alliances that people are talking about. And the UPND seem to be strong and doing and pushing forward. Electricity is also something that has been load shedding. I think most Zambians are now used to the load shedding. The government, we don't know what update the government has. So there's just a lot more to talk about. If you look at on the international scene, the Zambia has been added to the countries that have been restricted or partially, it's a partial ban, restriction, whatever you want to call it. And Zambia is also part of the Africa Cup, or maybe on its way out. I mean, we don't know. You never know. But there's just a lot to talk about. So let's get the show on the road, and we'll be able to bring up Mr. Aaron. He was a geopolitical analyst. He writes for the Mass newspaper. He writes for the Guardian, and he's pretty much plugged in on the international scene, talking about politics. And Mr. Jimmy Katuta is a veteran who has been in the United States for quite some time, and he has now relocated back home in Zambia. And the last conversation that we had with Mr. Katuta, he was appealing to Zambians to return back home. And a lot of people were excited about that. And then others were saying, oh, we are not ready. So we'll talk about these and more as we continue the conversation. All right, so let's start with gentlemen. There's so much to talk about. Let's start with Mr. Mr. Katuta featured on the show previously, and Mr. Katuta, in your own words. First of all, let's start with Mr. Katuta, and then we'll go to Mr. Aaron. Yeah, Mr. Katuta, since you were on the show last time talking and appealing to Zambians in the diaspora, in your own words, what can you say? In your own words, Mr. Katuta, how would you review 2025? And then we'll circle back to the comments that you expressed during the previous show.
Thank you, Brother Noah, for again this opportunity, which is some of these opportunities are so fundamental to the progress of our country. So I wish that more people would start thinking, and by most people I mean most of these social media influencers, especially those that are based in Zambia. These are the types of shows we should be having so that we can be on the same page, so to speak. There's so many things that have happened in 2025. I spent the whole of 2025 here in Zambia, so I got to experience Zambia at its best, also at, I don't want to say it's worst, but we've had some bad times in Zambia that I feel should have been handled or could have been handled better, like the death of our late president, the 6th president of the Republic of Zambia, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, just to be correct there. The way his death has been handled, it's somewhat controversial. There's so many sides, or rather, so many versions of this story. And for me, what I like to say, as you know, I don't like to comment on politics, but this is not so much a political thing as far as I'm concerned. It's more of a human thing. It's a human issue where a late president dies and his family wishes his burial to go a certain way. And then the country which he served also wishes his burial to go another way. So it's something that I try to stay out of, just to make sure that I don't get my my meaning confused. It's when you talk about president of a country, rather not just Zambia. In my opinion, once a member of the family decides to join politics, especially at the highest office, and obviously for him to have made that decision to run for the highest office, then his family agreed to him, or rather agreed for him to do that. And one of the things that family should realize is that once he runs for the highest office to where he becomes president of a country, then he's, I hate to say it like this, but he becomes property of the country. Because the presidency is not a person, it's the office he holds. So even though there are sentiments that are there from the family's side regarding how he was treated when he was alive. That is very sad and very unfortunate. But I think it's best that they look into what this man symbolizes as a Zambian. This man was a state, he was a head of state for this country. And it's ironic because Zambia has been known to be the one of, if not the most peaceful African country.
Mhm.
So for us to have this smear on our record, it's sad. It's sad, and I think that we should really do something about that. That's that. And as far as I will go on the political side. Now, 2025, Mr. President, has been a year of tremendous awareness, awakening for me,
Mhm.
uh, because I've lived in America, as you know, for a very long time. So there was a way that I expected that things happen or things are run in this country. And when I came here, I found out that no, that's not the case. And probably because when I left Zambia in 1989, Zambia was a very different country than it is today. Today, it's not a little, it's more advanced. There's a lot of development in infrastructure development, obviously, and even social. So we have to make sure that as we are coming back, those of us that are really encouraging the diaspora to return home and come home and not only make a better life for yourself and your family, but also to help improve your country. Uh, there are certain things that you must be aware of. And when we bring in, when Aaron comes in, we'll dig deeper into that. But personally, I think it has been a good year. 2025 has been a good year. I learned a lot as far as how to do business in Zambia. And I ran into some issues that I would like for the people out there to be aware of, those people that are looking to return, just so that they don't face some of the challenges that I face. So far, so good.
Yeah, yeah. It's been an interesting year. It's been an interesting year. So now let's see. Circle back to Mr. Aaron Ngambi and take to see what Mr. Ngambi has to say about this 2025. So, Mr. Ngambi, take it away. Mr. Ngambi, 2025, how would you characterize 2025 as we are marching into 2026? What's your take on 2025? What would you say?
Firstly, on a personal level, I wanted to comment on your opening remarks. I think you made an interesting comment that, sometimes we go towards the end of the year and we're excited and we want to make changes and we have all these resolutions. You make them transition into the following year, and then 3 weeks, we find ourselves going back to the old habits. Fun fact is that it takes at least 6 weeks for us to break away from the old habits. So hopefully in 2026, we can, if we want to change anything, we can come up with a strategy and make sure that, we keep track of our days and our progress. And in that 6 weeks, if we do the break even of 6 weeks, I'm pretty sure that we can go forward with a new resolve to do things differently. In terms of 2025, a lot has happened, and I'm glad that Mr. Katuta actually touched on a few things. First of all, in terms of what Zambia was in the headlines for, international headlines, we saw, unfortunately, the former president dying. In fact, I was looking at BBC 2 days ago, the BBC Focus on Africa, actually it's just BBC World. They published the voices of people who died, but their influence lives on. And so there are a lot of people, from different places who have passed on in 2025, including the former president of Nigeria, Buhari, and also the Zambian former president, who was on the list, President Lungu. And they said something about, unfortunately, he's yet to be buried, something to that effect. So, yes, with Uncle Jimmy saying that, I agree. It's unfortunate that we were in the news for the wrong reasons. We've been in the news for the wrong reasons. The struggles between the family of the former First Lady and the government has been unfortunate. I think that there's enough blame to go around the room on both sides, but we can leave it there because this is something that is unfolding, and it's in the courts of law in South Africa, and so we'll see what the court verdict will be. But just suffice it to say that it was unfortunate that we're making headlines about that. And then also there are other things that happened, and actually has been happening for the last few years. The issues of load shedding, what the country is faced with. But I have to say that now we're getting reports that the electricity situation is getting better in the country. So hopefully going into 2026, even though some people might be suspicious, thinking it's an election year and that's why they're doing something about it. But there are other factors that can explain that. I think that the government has tried. They're doing what they can to solve that problem, especially with issues of solar energy, renewable energy. I know the efforts that this government has put in to be able to rectify the electricity situation. It hasn't come at the time that Zambians expected it to come, or when the president promised when he was in opposition, but at least it's coming around. Other issues I can think of right now back home that have happened, issues concerning the performance of the economy. On paper, the economy looks very good. You look at GDP projections, you look at what we have been able to do so far, but there's only a missing part. The missing part is the trickle-down effects of that economy. We have not seen a lot of changes in the livelihoods of the people in terms of the bread and butter issues. And I think that that's where the challenge remains, because we can look very good. I mean, we've done debt restructuring, we've performed very well in other areas. And I think inflation is very down to single digits. It was once at single digits. It might be back to double digits. But all of these indicators don't mean anything if people cannot put food on the table, if people cannot go to a hospital and find medication and are treated, if people cannot get quality education. So I think that 2025 has been a lesson for all of us. On a personal level, I traveled to Zambia 3 times this year. And obviously, it's always exciting to be at home. On one of my trips, I met someone in, I think it was a print shop. We were trying to print something. So someone looks at me, and I think I was trying to pull out my ID from my wallet, and he saw my driver's license for Texas. And he says to me, "Oh, you're in the US?" I said, "Yeah, trying to make the transition and trying to come back. Of course, trying to listen to Uncle Jimmy, trying to adhere to Uncle Jimmy's advice." And he says to me, "Oh, actually, I just moved back here. I was in the US for almost 15 years. So I just moved back here. And if you need some tips about how, to make the transition to come home, please reach out anytime, And this person gives me the number. The desire for people to go back is there. We all want to go back at some point. I think it's how we do it. And if someone like Uncle Jimmy can do it and can guide people, that would be brilliant. And that is what I'll be looking forward to in 2026 and going forward.
Well said, Erlon. Yeah, so I think as we continue the conversation, we're going to bring up Mr. Jimmy Katuta to have sort of an interaction. So stay tuned. We'll be right back in a few seconds.
Premier Media is one of the fastest growing independent media enterprises that produces bias-free content and streams educational programs to empower Africans, African Americans, and the African diaspora around the globe. Premier Media owns and operates a valuable portfolio of streaming programs, such as Primetime Show, The Circle of Love, Leadership Files, and Revolution. Not forgetting our signature Development Panel series, which features experts around the world that highlight challenges and opportunities in Africa, putting Africa in the center of global conversations. For more information, visit us at premiermedia.com or follow us on social media.
Yes, follow us on social media and take time to share with your friends or family members. This is a conversation reflecting on 2025. Share the stream with your friends and circles. And if you have a question, you have a comment, put it in the chat on, you can type it on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll be able to project your question or comment as you follow along. So now let's go back to the three gentlemen. Mr. Katuta, talking about returning back home, last time you made some comments, and a lot of people were responded positively, just like Aaron was at some print shop, and he came across somebody who has returned back home. And you have been in Zambia for almost 2 years. The whole of 2025, you were at that side. Talk to us about how you were able to transition, coming from a developed nation, the United States, and going to a country that is developing. How was that transition for you?
It was great. It was great because, see, I lived in Las Vegas for a very long time. And those of you that have been to Las Vegas, like Aaron here and I've met in Vegas several times, you will see that Las Vegas is nothing but concrete, right? Mm-hmm. It's very rare that you see any type of vegetation, any grass, any green. You don't see that. So for me, the biggest thing that I really, really enjoyed, that just touched my heart, is being here and being surrounded by so much life. You know, where you look, there are trees, there's grass, there are plants, there are flowers everywhere you look, and there's dirt. It just, for me, made me just want to come home and just stay home. As far as, and the other thing that I love about Zambia, not just Zambia, most of Africa, actually, at this point, they're so developed. They're so developed. The buildings that you see here, the roads, everything is developed. We may be developing in some cases, but as far as a person like me is concerned, this is as developed as America is. The only difference is that here I get to breathe some fresh air. I get to see a lot of green, a lot of water bodies, and I love it. And talking about this last conversation that you and I had, where we got some pushback, there were people that said some rather unfortunate things, talking about, mind your business. If you want to come back to Africa, you go back. Don't try and force people to come. And I think that was a missed opportunity for some of our people that were responding, because if they were patient enough to listen to the entire show that we had, I wasn't forcing people to come back. I would never do that. Mm-hmm. The only thing I was merely doing was telling people my personal experience, both in America and in Zambia. Those who feel that their lives are better in the US, by all means, stay there. But those that have the foresight to see Africa develop, to see where Africa is headed, I say, try to come home, at least visit, come and visit. And if you're like me, 1 visit, 2 visits will make you realize that life is good here. And this is where we need to be. So what we need to be discussing, gentlemen, is to take the stigma away, the anxiety away from people that are looking to relocate back home. What are the pros and cons? Okay, what is good in Africa that would make somebody want to stay and come back and stay, or vice versa? What I don't like in Africa, and I'll be honest, what I don't like is the corruption. Okay, the corruption is so rampant. This is not just in Zambia. It's almost like a culture. It's like a plague. It's like a disease that everybody does it so easily. It has become normal. The police pull you over, and when they pull you over, they take you in the back of their cruiser, the police vehicle, and they ask you to give them money. So even if people are making road errors, the money is not going to the city. as it is intended for, because these police are taking this money, putting it in their pockets. So the country, the police force itself is not getting anything out of it. If you go into these offices and you go to apply for something as simple as a license, I've been trying to get some mineral licenses here. You gotta pay people to do the work that they're paid to do. You see, and for me, what's the problem there? How do we fix this? Because this, I think, is where we lack a lot of progression in Africa. Because you look at these people, the reason they are so corrupt is because they don't make enough money. So they look at people like me and they think, oh, he came from the US. Like the police, when they pull me over, I still have my California driver's license. When I show them my driver's license, oh, it's $dollars. Park over there from dollar. Let them do your Gwendala. That's not supposed to be the case. So for me, when they pull me over, I say, you know what? Let's go to court and I'll fight it in court. They say, well, give us the key, we impound your car right here. So a lot of those things need to be addressed. And I feel that starts from the top to where the top really, really said, let us create. I know we have an anti-corruption team or whatever you want to call it, unit here, but they're probably corrupt themselves. So what's the problem and how do we fix it? Those are the conversations that I want us to be having. But as far as moving to Africa, the business opportunities are immense. When you look at just for instance, when you talk about the load shedding, this energy crisis we have here is an opportunity for entrepreneurs. This is an opportunity to collaborate with certain government entities that are in the energy sector and also bring in some of the relationships you've built in the diaspora. People think that to make a big change, you have to bring in millions of dollars to, no. All you need is if we all tap into our little networks that we have and say, okay, we have a portion here. A friend of ours has a piece of land here, maybe 5 acres of land. Can we put a solar farm there? You put a solar farm there, everybody puts in a little money here and there, and guess what? You become an energy company. So those are the things that I want us to really talk about.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Mr. Katuta. Corruption is something that always pisses me off personally. For instance, I'll give a specific example. Back in 2010, I had gone to Standard Chartered Bank to open a bank account. Trust me, it was a nightmare. They ask for this, they ask for that, they ask for this, they ask for that, and you produce what they ask, they come up with something else. Like presently, there is a project that we are working on, and we've been working on opening a bank account with Absa Bank or former Barclays Bank. I think these banks are just a joke. I mean, sorry to put it like that, but they are. Because even if you produce the required documentation, they'll still come up with something. How do you, I mean, what's the process in opening a bank account? I gave up when I went to Standard Chartered Bank. It was just like a complete joke, and started working on opening a bank account last year in October to now. So I understand your sentiments exactly, Mr. Katuta, because it's like people, the culture that they exist in the country is just so unfortunate. It's not only the politicians, it's just, I think the culture is very wicked, very crooked. And I think this is one area where sometimes people in the diaspora, when we say certain things, is because we are coming from a society where if I went into the motor vehicle department right now to obtain a ID or driver's license or equivalent to an NRC, you simply walk in and you walk out with the item. You don't have to know someone who knows someone. Right. But in Zambia, you have to have connections. If you're like getting the mineral license, you have to know someone who knows someone, and then you give them, you bribe those people. So it's like, it's a very toxic environment in terms of, especially in the government institutions. I think this is one area where the government really needs to go in. I think these organizations, anti-corruption and drug enforcement. I think all those things, if I had my way, I would tell HH, disband all that nonsense and then bring in, maybe like outsource, bring in the diaspora. This is where you can tap into maybe people who can come in and be able to root out all some of these things, because it's usually people will just talk about the politicians, but it's not the politicians. I think even when you're parking your car in the streets, the people who say, oh, boss, parking on the app, they want to get something. A person who guides you, oh, Kwelan Basija, they will fight with the conductor or the bus driver. They want to get something. So the system of in Chekeleko has really polluted the country, that some of the people in the diaspora, when we have this conversation, those are things that they don't like. So I think government has a lot to work on, because corruption is truly an infection that is affecting the country. I know, Aaron, you want to come in. What's your take on corruption in the country?
Yeah, very interesting topic to discuss. Now, before I make my comments on corruption, I wanted to also add on to something that Mr. Katuta alluded to, and I think that this should be the conversation we should be having. You know, he said that there was a pushback when you had a discussion about encouraging Zambians in the diaspora to come home, and you know, that brain drain that the country experiences when people with skills and people just leave and they don't come back. I think that what can help as a suggestion is where we find social media platforms or create social media platforms like Uncle Jimmy. You spearhead, provide leadership where you have some sort of groups and organizations that exhibits or shows those in the diaspora how, in fact, I'm very happy that Uncle Jimmy has even made this transition. Is a great example to me and to many. But if you provide that kind of leadership where you show people, exhibit to people what it looked like for you, what opportunities are there, and even people actually have contacts when they come back home, because they'll come visit. You know, they want you to interact with someone who was in the US for 15, 20 years, but now lives home. And you can't just find this person on the street randomly, but if there's some sort of structure and interaction, I think it makes it easy for some of us to consider that kind of move seriously. Going to corruption, unfortunately, what we are talking about here is not just fantasy, it's the reality. Because I'll give you a personal experience. My father passed on in April of 2021. Now he was put to rest. I stayed behind, and my younger brothers who live outside the country, they all went back after the funeral was over. But I stayed behind for about 5 to 6 months, partly because we had an election in August, but also I'm the administrator for whatever the old man left for his estate. And so one of the things I was supposed to do is to actually get the death certificate from the ministry that, you know, issues these death certificates for the old man. That in itself was not a pleasant experience, because just like Uncle Jimmy said, because people want you to give them money to do their job, which they're paid for. Right. So it took me over 5 months. I kept going to the office there in Lusaka, kept going to the office, and oh, you can come tomorrow, or this one is not in the office. And I turned to my young brother and said to him, one of my young brothers at home, I said to him, you know what? I'm not leaving and I'm not giving anyone anything until I get the death certificate. And he said to me, well, you'll be here for a very long time. Let me just take over that and I'll take care of it. And sure enough, the young man had to give someone just something, and the death certificate came out almost instantly or the next day. You know, so when we talk about corruption, the culture, the mindset, and what has happened in our country and Africa at large, it's very sad. Now, to the point that Brother Noah, you mentioned, for example, if you were president today, you just fire everyone from anti-corruption and bring in people with expertise or people from the diaspora. The problem with that is a brilliant idea, but the problem with that is not even HH can do that because of patronage in our politics. You see this in the Foreign Service, you see this with appointments, because the people that have been with the president for so long in the opposition and they've suffered with him, they need jobs. So HH will just do the same thing that the predecessor and other presidents we've had before do. They come into office and they only appoint those people that they know, that they've worked with, or people that they have to reward. And guess what? Those people get into these offices, they look at how the system works, and they have to reward friends, and the corruption continues. This is the unfortunate part. But I think that it's important to have these discussions, because then we begin to share ideas and brainstorm and talk about what we have seen, especially those who've traveled and have been exposed, what we've seen happen in other countries. I had this discussion with my sister. My older sister lives in the Netherlands. She likes to come to the US to visit. She's here for the festive season. And she said to me, what is the difference between our police officers, the example that Uncle Jimmy gave, and the police officers here? Because in the US, if the police officer pulls you over and you're driving without a license or an expired license, you can get $200 or $100 or $300 and say, okay, here is for a drink, and you drive off. That is not happening. But at home, in Zambia, they don't even have to ask you. You just produce it, you give them, I don't know how many kwacha, 300 kwacha, and they let you go. The difference is that if you look at the police force here, you look at the conditions of service, you look at their retirement package, it's completely something that they cannot jeopardize for a few $100s. So there's need for serious empowerment for law enforcement, but also to the point that Uncle Jimmy made. When you are pulled over by the traffic officer and you give them 500 kwacha or 300 kwacha, they let you go. That money is not going to the police service. That money is not going to improve their service conditions. That money goes in the pocket. Therefore, it doesn't make any difference that the corruption continues. So these discussions, if we're honest enough, people should really approach this with an open heart and an open mind, because it's not us being petty. We're just highlighting what actually happens. And once we have these discussions, then we can begin to exchange ideas and see if something can be done.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I think the purpose of this conversation like this is to spotlight what has been identified, so that at least a solution can be found. For instance, if a person gets sick and you show up at the hospital, what the doctors normally do is try to run some tests. They run some tests and then they come up with a diagnosis and say, oh, I think you have such and such. Once they identify whatever the problem is, then it becomes easier to recommend a solution. So it's the same thing when we're having this conversation. We may point out certain areas of where we see that there is corruption, and it's not necessary that we're trying to criticize. We are trying to shine a light so that at least the problem is identified. Then a solution can be sort of recommended. There are a lot of good people, policemen and women who are doing great things, but it is always the few corrupt that spoil the bunch. So I just wanted to make it abundantly clear that this is not necessarily, because I know people say, oh, diaspora, you complain too much. No, it's not complaining. It's making a contrast, because like I gave an example here, if you are opening a bank account, you can actually do that even online. Within 5-10 minutes, your account is open. But in Zambia, just like my colleagues here have mentioned, you have to know someone who knows someone. So for Aaron's, unfortunate passing of the dad, the certificate, which is supposed to be out almost instantly within a day or two, or give it maybe 5 days, there's no way that the certificate would take almost 6 months, and you have to know someone. And I'll make one more example. One of my friends, she was at UTH. She had gone for some tests. I don't know what tests they were running, but she wasn't feeling well. So this person calls her, "Oh, Mami, if muna na 1.5, muna na ingono," because I think a week had passed, and she was waiting for the results. And you, even at the hospital where you are vulnerable, you're not in your best shape, you have to know someone for you to get the results. That is an infection that speaks for itself. So this is the scenario that the diasporians, for the most part, may point out. And the purpose, again, is just to figure out what can we do, because collectively it all makes us look bad as a country. This is not only a PF issue. This is not only a UPND. It is us as a people. This is why I gave an example of even those street boys who, when you are parking your car, just backing up, they point, "Oh, park there." They want something. So this is why we as a people, we have to reflect and say, no, this is not the way it's supposed to be. We can always do better. So let's take a short break, and then when we come back, Mr. Katuta will share some thoughts on what he liked and what he liked in 2025, and then also Aaron will talk about the good. So we'll start with the good in 2025, and then we'll go to the bad. So we'll be right back after this quick message. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in a few seconds as we continue the conversation. At the same time, share with your friends and circles, so at least they can be part of this conversation. Thank you. All right, Mr. Katu, what did you like about 2025?
What did I like about 2025? Before I answer that question, if I can have permission to just address what Aaron said.
Sure.
Yeah, he said something that was very interesting, and this is not the first time I've heard this. I talked about creating some type of a movement. I don't know what to call it yet, but to create something where we can have these meetings and talk about how we can help improve our country. Remember, we had that the show where we were talking about keeping Zambia clean, and I said, "I love Zambia." I'm starting an "I Love Zambia" campaign. As you have seen, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that. There have been people that have actually been suggesting that you should find a place, a location where we can meet, all of us can meet, and actually do something about these problems. So I would like to apply to that idea what Aaron just said. In essence, what I'm saying is the idea of having some type of a community movement. You know, in the US, we have Neighborhood Watch, right? So imagine if we had something like a community watch, where you have volunteers who love their country, like some of us do. We all come together and we say, how can we, if we can't help implement or encourage policies in our government that can help our country become better as far as cleanliness, keeping our country clean, the police, this corruption, we need to find somebody to police the police.
Because sorry, Mr. Katuta, not to cut you short. I have seen Chitambala Mwewa, Simon Mwewa. I mean, Simon is the father's name, but Chitambala, one of the things that I've seen him push for is for people around where he's doing business to be more responsible. But he always gets this pushback. And part of that, I think some of that is that he is one person who thinks differently from the rest of the people, because he has obviously lived abroad, and he is trying to communicate to people that, hey, pick up after yourself. You cannot just throw things anyhow. So I thought that maybe also is part of what you're talking about. So it's a matter of interacting and networking with the right people, so that at least this message can be put to the forefront. So I just wanted to make that point.
And
Proceed, sir.
thank you for that interjection, because what I'm actually thinking right now as we are talking, I'm thinking, because I have met Simon. Well, I went to his office over there on Simon Moore Lane. I've been to the Simonson building. He was very gracious. And I'm thinking that will probably be a good place to start. So I'll call him and have a conversation with him, because if we're going to start this community watch, I would think that that would be a good place to start, since he is something that has been a pioneer of this conversation for a while. He just needs help. He just needs the support system, like Aaron says. So we need to create an engine where all these concerned citizens can meet and share ideas on how to keep our country clean and also progressive. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, Uncle Jimmy, I wanted to say that I think the issue that I also brought up, which was more of maybe something you can speak to, and it's more, I just wanted to kind of challenge you, because you're one of the people that at least I personally know who's done something that probably I should be doing, or I'll be doing in the next few years. So what I was thinking is that, it's not easy for someone to leave the comfort of the diaspora and make that transition to go home and then start looking for opportunities, basically start from the scratch and connections and figuring out business. What we need, that community watch, and that's great for passionate and patriotic citizens, and find ways that we can contribute positively, and that can be open to anyone. But I think there should also be a structure for those coming from the diaspora. I mean, when I come home, I don't even know who to meet, who's been in Michigan, or who's lived in Texas, or who is someone that was in Washington for a long time. But if we have a structure, some sort of people that provide leadership and people that are just there to interact, when I come home, trust me, the first thing I'm going to find out is from you. Uncle Jimmy, when are we having any events this month? Because I'm in Zambia. I like to meet those people that lived in the diaspora. I think that kind of structure will give us a different perspective. If there's 20 people that you meet, or 30 people, and trust me, there's more than 30 and 20 people in Zambia who've moved back home, and they share with you their stories and what they did, I think there'll be not so much of a pushback between those who've gone back home and people still in the diaspora, or even the Zambians at home. So I think for me, I'm trying to think of what we can construct in terms of a structure that provides for a transition, provides for interactions between those who've done what others want to do, and more like coach them through or mentor them through the process and connect them to their connections, so that when I'm moving back home, I know, well, I know Uncle Jimmy, me and Uncle Jimmy are working on a business back home, and it's doing this, and so maybe it's about time to go. So that was more of my challenge to you, Uncle Jimmy.
I love that. I love that so much, so much. And only you, Aaron, can come up with an idea like that, because that is exactly what we need. We need a structure that brings back all the people that have been in the diaspora, have a meeting location where we can exchange ideas on what we've done in our various sectors in the diaspora, how we can bring that into Zambia and help develop our country. And I can see the government get involved in that, because that is something that would really, really help the country. And if you remember, I believe HH once said that he was making the diaspora the 11th province. I don't know whether that was a joke or that was a metaphor. I don't know. But this will be one of those opportunities where we can do that.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
so yeah.
maybe just once every month, every Thursday, third Thursday of the month, we meet at this hotel or at this lodge. We just breakfast, just tea and coffee. And if the people in the diaspora know that, every month there's this group of Zambians who've moved back, they're doing projects, and there's a structure that's provided for us. Trust me, when I'm in the country and I remember this is one of the Thursdays or Fridays that they meet, and it's at this place. I'm driving there. I'm coming to meet people that have lived in the diaspora or who are living in the diaspora and are home visiting. We need that kind of connection, Uncle Jimmy, and I think if you provide that interaction, that platform, it'll be very crucial for us.
Yeah,
Take a
that would
challenge.
be good. That's great opportunity for Mr. Katuta there. And this is one of the questions that I think somebody had shared. And we say, those who are on the ground, like Mr. Katuta, on the ground, I mean those who are in Zambia, it would be nice from time to time to check in, just like Aaron is suggesting, at a physical place. But we are going to try to use the Kuchalo to have virtual meetings on a monthly basis, so that at least we can be able to give an opportunity for people who are not able to travel. It could be somewhere outside the country, or you are still somewhere in, let's say, the US or Europe, and you're planning on how the transition, the process where you need to go, and also the government who at some point will engage the government, so that the government can have a way to tap into the vastness of resources and expertise from the diasporians, so that as they are transitioning back home, then they sort of like a soft landing, so that at least you get there, you already know at least, okay, there's A, B, and C where I need to start from. Because I think when we talk to some of the people in the diaspora, they will say, when I get there, I don't even know where to start from. So yeah, so having this, I totally second that, Aaron. It's something that is welcome, and we'll try to power it from this end on the virtual side to at least engage as much more people. Yes, sorry, continue, Mr. Katuta.
No, I was just going to add that that is exactly how we built the African diaspora of Las Vegas to be what it is today. We were doing monthly mixers where we would select a business that's African owned, and we go to that business once a month, and everybody comes there. And that's where we were sharing ideas. When we started this in 2019, there were about 6 or 7 countries represented. Today, this is 2025 going into 2026. We have over 40, I believe, 40 countries represented in the African diaspora of Las Vegas. So I can see us taking the same module and doing it here in Zambia. It does 2 things. Number one, it brings cohesive idea sharing between businessmen that are in Zambia and those that are coming from the diaspora. And number 2, it showcases our businesses in Zambia. So if we choose a restaurant that is Zambian owned, that's where we go and have our mixer. That makes sure that puts that business on the map, so to speak. It gives them some exposure that they need as far as marketing is concerned. And in exchange, they give us discounted rates on their beverages and meals. So that is definitely something I would do. And we could, Aaron, actually, I challenge you to be part of this idea with me, and let's build it for 2026. That's a must do.
Yeah. So that's a comment there from Esnat. Yeah, it's a good thing, because good things, I think they say the journey of 1,000 steps starts with a single step. So we are doing that, especially as we are looking into 2026. These are some of the progressive thinking that we want, so that at least people can come in, share ideas. So collectively, the goal is to make sure that Zambia is a unique haven on the African continent free from corruption. I know it's going to take a while, but we want to get to a point where it's free from corruption so that at least people have that mindset, knowing that just like the good book talks about, treat your fellow like are you your brother's keeper? If it's your brother, it's your sister, are you going to charge them that much for you to help them with a passport? Or is it the NRC or whatever the case may be? At the end of the day, what we're trying to encourage people is people need to have integrity.
Right.
People need to have empathy, and people need to be able to see themselves in the other person. Only then will things begin to move in the right direction, so that if you open a bank account, like some of us who have been trying to open a bank account, I'm calling out ABSA, and unfortunately, but that's the truth, trying to open a bank account from October last year. And this year is almost ending. It's always this, it's always that. Again, hopefully we'll get to a point where this type of nonsense will no longer follow us in 2026. So anyway, Zambia is playing in the Africa Cup. How is that going?
So before I respond to that, I saw a question there from Esnat Lungu. She was saying, can you also provide,
I
don't know if you can bring it up, could you
Yeah,
also plan
yes.
for a reverse arrangement where those of us planning to travel outside Zambia can have where to start from or where to go to connect with fellow Zambians? Well, Esnat, there are already places in place for that. Noah right here is the founder of an organization called ZANUS, stands for Zambian Associations Network of the United States. If you decide to go to the United States, just let us know and we'll connect you. There are organizations there that are there for people coming into Zambia, into the US from Zambia. There's also OZA. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's called the Organization of Zambians Abroad. The president there is President Siddiq Galu, very, very humble human being. You go there, you just call them. They're a very well organized team. So they'll point you in the direction, connect you. We're in every state. We're in every state and we're very well connected and we help each other out. So yeah, that if you have any questions, you can reach out to Kuchalo and we can give you some more detailed answers. All right, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
I know in the interest of time, Zambia, how is Zambia doing in the Africa Cup of Nations? And then we can talk about what we look forward to 2026. Has Zambia been knocked out yet?
I'll tell you this about Zambia, and most people will not be happy with me, but it's the truth. I enjoy watching the Zambia female team, the Zambian soccer team. They are much better than the male team. I have never seen a Zambian game where the men, the Chipolo Polo, where they were playing and they won a game. Every time I watch, they lose. It's so underwhelming, and these are guys that I believe are professional athletes, but they play like kids playing at a secondary school. So I watched it last time they played against Gabon.
The Comoros? Oh, okay.
Comoros, yes. Which I was.
Yeah, I watched them.
Yeah,
so I watched the Comoros game.
Morocco. So they're watching. They're playing Morocco today. So we'll see what happens there.
All right. So as we are moving forward, what do you hope to see in 2026, Aaron? 2026. How is it looking like from your end there?
Well, Uncle Jimmy, it is now in the commonplace that most Zambians actually like the women playing soccer than us. The men have been a disappointing. I mean, that would have been controversial 5-10 years ago, but it's not controversial anymore. I think there's a lot of people who are very comfortable and are happy with what the women are doing with soccer. But we hope that we do something different. Anyway, that's one of the good things that happened this year is we even qualified to the Africa Cup, because in the past few years we've done so horrible. So I guess that's a good thing. At least we go to the Africa Cup. 2026 is going to be a very interesting year, specifically for Zambia, in the sense of politics, because it's an election year. And also, it's going to be an interesting year because the government will be under pressure to showcase that they have performed. So I think that there are some things that will slightly improve in terms of maybe exchange rate, in terms of inflation, in terms of maybe people having access to healthcare services and things like that. And that's expected. It's not only the UPND that will behave this way, but that is something that we've seen from history. Most of our people, most of the previous governments have done that. So I think it's going to be a very good year. We expect to see a lot of results. We expect to see a lot of improvement. But also there may be some challenges because, you know, you can't always be prepared for tomorrow. You can't always be too careful with life for some time. So there's some things that may happen that may be out of our control. But overall, I think the next year looks good. If only we can do everything we can as a country, as a people, to stay away from political violence, because we've seen this during by-elections. It's unfortunate. It was very rampant during the PF. We've seen some of that also under the UPND. So I think that if only we can get that serious leadership from the top. I think the president has done well so far, to be honest, in terms of trying to champion that, in terms of trying to send a message that I'll not tolerate violence. So he's done well, but I think that in an election year, when the mood is charged, it might be different from a by-election. So we hope that he'll be very stiff and he'll walk the walk and be able to give that instruction from the top. No violence, regardless of who does it. In terms of businesses, I think that there are projections that I think our GDP must be growing at 6% going into next year. And so the mines are opening up. Unfortunately, my problem I have with our people, not only this government, is that we have very little confidence in our own. For example, I have argued for a long time, since 2020, if I can remember, I've been writing articles about how Zambians can own and run the mines in Zambia. Of course, there's been a shift in policy. I know that this current administration are very much into issuing mining license to only Zambians, who then have to team up with foreigners to actually go into these ventures. But I still believe that we have skills, we have expertise, we have people who are learned, who can run even major mining corporations. Otherwise, we've been losing a lot of money to these mining companies that come in for a short period of time. They make super profits and they leave. And what are we left with? With just, you know, these deep holes and the residues that come out of that enterprise. So we need to shift from not just owning small-scale artisan mining, but we need to shift the conversation. Do we have Zambians among ourselves who are geologists, who are engineers, who can go into mining and actually have a mine that they can run profitably and return those profits at home? Now, lastly, let me just say this. I used to have conversations with, for example, Honorable Charles Milupi, who's a minister of housing and I think rural development. Now, and I don't have to put him on the spot, but I thought I should drive a point. In 2019 and 2020, when the UPND was in the opposition, I used to have conversations with him. In fact, he would even call me regularly. One of the things I kept asking Honorable Milupi, which she agreed with me, I said, if you go to South Africa or another country, for example, in the region, even just Zimbabwe, you're not going to find a country that almost all the sectors of the economy that contribute to our GDP are foreign owned, are run by foreigners. Nothing wrong with that. But where does that put us? What does that happen to the profits that are made by those companies? For example, the retail chain stores, ShopRite, Pick n Pay, game stores, I can name all of them. They're not owned by people who are Zambians and who are living in Zambia. or they can be Zambians living abroad, but they're not owned by Zambians. What does that mean? The dividends, the profits that they make, and when they pay out these dividends, they're paid to the people that live in Cape Town, people that live outside that actually run these stores. So I used to say to him, look at the construction sector, for example. Major construction companies that are doing contract with government are Chinese owned. You look at other sectors, the mining sector that I spoke to. So I used to say to him, we need a radical shift. He agreed with me by and large. In fact, I wrote an article about this in 2021. I said the change that we need in 2021 and beyond, in January of 2021, before the elections. And I never, it wasn't anti-PF or anti-UPND. I was just laying down the problems that we have. How do we have a country that, for example, ShopRite pays people that work in ShopRite as cashiers and security guards $150 a month, or $200 a month at the most, 5,000 kwacha or 4,000 kwacha. No, in fact, some even 3,000 kwacha. Some people that work for Chinese companies have told me even 2,500 kwacha as a full-time job. How do we allow that? But yet these companies make super profits, and those profits are paid as dividends to the owners who don't live in Zambia. The money leaves the country. So I said in that article, I said we need to change that. And one of the person that actually wrote to me an email that I still have and started calling me and we're talking about it is now, he was appointed by President Hakainde Hichilema as permanent secretary in defense for a long time, but now he runs DMUU. Norman Chipakupaku. He was living in Scotland at the time before the UPND won the elections. So I highlight this to say that the country still has problems. The country still needs to have difficult conversations and dialogues about leadership, about what it entails to turn the country around. And these conversations cannot just be had or be talked about on partisan lines with emotions. We have to be objective. We have to have facts right. We have to argue with one another until we get it right. That is what I'm hoping for in 2026 and beyond.
Well said, Mr. Aaron. Mr. Katuta, your take, sir.
Aaron, as always, just took the words right out of my mouth. Because for me, for 2026, what I would like to see is a diaspora-owned mining company, gold mining company. One of the things that we did when we came here at JK and Partners, we opened a mining company. Our company, JK and Partners Mining, is already running, and we're in the process of partnering with some of these local small-scale miners. What I would like to see is to have a mine like ZCCM was, which is owned by Zambians in the diaspora. And this, we don't just want to mine gold, we want value addition. We want to make sure we refine our gold right here in country. So that is something I'd like to see for 2026. Other than that, I'd like to see peace that we've enjoyed all this time. Make sure that the Zambian people understand that we are not a violent people. We're a nation of love. We may differ in policy or ideology, but ultimately we all want the best for our country. So let's not forget that. And I'll leave it at that.
Yes. I think there is much more that we need to do as a country, just like Alan pointed out in terms of the investment. I look at for instance, like the labor laws, because when we talk about these salaries that have been paid 2,500, 3,000, or 5,000, where the company is making tons and tons of millions of dollars, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But again, you cannot in a way blame those companies. Obviously, they have to have some integrity, that they do the right thing. But now that's where the labor laws of the country come in to ensure that people are not taken advantage of. And also, Aaron talked about the land acquisition. I think it's also important for governments to have the right policies to ensure that you are not just giving out land foreigners, there has to be a process so that at least it's Zambians first. And when you talk about mining, I like the idea Mr. Katuta brings up, that the diasporians, obviously, there's something that we collectively can do. When we talk about investment in Zambia, it's not necessarily, I think most people think an investor always has to look different has to be non-black. So I think we need a lot in terms of understanding that even us, I like the Ethiopian community who in the diaspora, they were able to channel a lot of money that went into the construction of the Grand Renaissance Dam. That came from the Ethiopians in the diaspora. Now the question that we have to challenge ourselves, especially in the diaspora, is what can we point at that is something that we are doing? Because there's something we can do. We can open a mine. It was unfortunate during the times of Frederick Chiluba. People who are swift in words or in the Queen's language, they come in and make promises and they shake hands and then they are given the mine and then they invest into the mines and then they turn around and pay the 75 million, which was just almost like a joke. It's a challenge for us because all these mishaps, sometimes you find that our leaders are not very well informed. This is why those who are capable and those who are able, especially in the diaspora, and also those on the ground in Zambia, we are challenging you, we are asking you, we are appealing to you to join hands with us to see how we can have these conversations on a monthly basis to see, especially if you are abroad, you can plug in with our Kuchalo, follow our page, so that at least we can have this conversation and see how the transition process is. Mr. Katuta is already on the ground. He's been enjoying himself. I don't know if he's enjoying the load shedding, but he's enjoying the vegetation. Las Vegas is like a rock. It's concrete everywhere. I've been there. It's yeah, but Zambia is a beautiful country, and it will take us collectively as Zambians to do our part to realize that in order for the country to improve, we have to do our part. Like there's one great philosopher I know who always says, we are the ones we've been waiting for. And if we all play our part, 2026 will be not only the beginning, it will just be the foundation for what we can collectively do as a people. I think with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we wish you a happy 2025, and make sure for things to change, you have to plan. You cannot envision that things will change by hoping. Praying is good, but you have to concretize your plans and write them down and have the discipline to be consistent, follow through. Only then will you see things moving in the direction that we want. So that's my 2026, a corruption-free Zambia. We hope for that. So in a minute or less, Aaron, your final words to our listeners.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great discussion. I have hope in the Zambian people. We've come a long way, and I think that 2026 looks good for us. Yeah, I think it will take discipline, hard work, and for everything that Zambians are known for, those are things that we do on a daily basis. So I wish everyone a happy 2026, and God bless.
Thank you. Mr. Katuta?
Thank you, Kuchalo, as always, for providing this platform for us to talk and share ideas. Aaron, it's always good to see you. To my fellow Zambians, again, this is our country. We are the ones we've been waiting for. There's nobody coming to save us. Everybody who claims to come and invest in our country, they're not coming to save you. They're coming to take what they can and leave. But we have enough people within our community to do this. So 2026, I'd like to see Zambians come together. We're going to open this organization that will be channeling all our energies into developing our country. We'll be bringing in experts from the US, from Canada, from the UK, from Asia, wherever the Zambians are, and we'll get some of our government involved, government departments involved, so we can find a way to make sure that Zambians invest in Zambia, especially in the gold mining sector, gold mining industry rather. Copper is good, yes, but gold is something that we need to take seriously in Zambia. It could change the entire economy of our country. So I'm looking forward to great more conversations like this one, and happy and a healthy new year. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Jimmy. Thank you, Aaron. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to a production, a Premier Media production, looking at 2025 as we look to 2026. We wish you well. We encourage you to follow our page, join us. If you have suggestions, ideas, please, by all means, you can always get in touch with us. We'll be able to see how we can bring forward your suggestions, your ideas. This is the email address that you can write to us. If there is a formal conversation that you want, you can always write at info@kuchalo.com. We'll be glad to hear from you. And as we conclude, we wish you a happy 2025 and enjoy and keep flying the Zambian flag with dignity, pride, and respect till we meet again next time in 2026. We wish that your plans come true. Thank you.
Welcome to Kuchalo, your leading online hub for Zambians at home and abroad. Kuchalo is a trusted source of news, lifestyle, and practical information tailored for Zambians near and far. What we are: a platform designed by Zambians for Zambians and friends of Zambians. Tight-knit, inclusive, and Ubuntu-powered. We bring you the latest news, travel and tourism insights, investment opportunities, educational resources, and uplifting diaspora stories. A community-focused, non-political space celebrating our heritage. What we offer: community stories, diasporans making an impact, a bias-free zone, calm, factual, resonance over sensationalism. Our approach is Ubuntu first, content that strengthens community, celebrates heritage, and brings people together. Clarity, relevance, and inclusivity. Voices from Zambia and the global Zambian family, where you'll find us in Zambia, the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, South Africa, and everywhere in between. Kuchalo keeps you informed, connected, and inspired. Join the Kuchalo community today.